Hi, all. We're so thankful to have you here. It looks like I'm getting just a little bit of feedback here. Um, just want to make sure as we go through the meeting this evening that if anyone has any issues hearing, do let us know. Certainly the folks in person, get close to those mics when you can. But we're really excited to have this wonderful hybrid format available so people can join us from all over the place. Again, if you have any issues, let us know. We do have a couple technology things that we'll work through as the meeting goes on. But I do want to turn it over to Julie and Judith from Pathway Associates. And, we just really appreciate you all being here this evening.
Thank you so much, Erin. Hi, everybody. My name is Julie DeLong. We are Pathway Associates. We're based in Salt Lake City and do quite a bit of work around the state of Utah and a little bit in Idaho and Wyoming as well. Really excited to get to work with you all on your strategic plan. Our organization has been doing strategic planning, and for years, many for nonprofit organizations, for government organizations, and just thrilled to be able to do our process, our methodology with the town of Bluff. Judith, do you want to take a moment just to talk a little bit about you? Oh, I can't hear you.
I'm still master. I'm still looking for that unmute and unmute button. My name is Judith Oki, and I am a senior consultant with Pathway Associates. I've been with Pathway only for a few years now and have done some strategic planning work with Julie. I have worked largely with international nonprofit organizations, spending a lot of time on building capacity with everything from board development to general organizational development, strategic planning, et cetera. And as part of that interface with government, local governments and national governments in terms of, fitting into spaces and establishing shared priorities, et cetera. So in any case, I'm honored to be able to be part of this project with the town of Bluff. I was born and raised in Utah and just came back a few years ago. So this is a great way to know the state as a whole.
Today's town meeting is for people who live and or work in Bluff and care about the quality of life and the future direction of the town. I'm going to share my screen and hope this works.
Here we go.
Well, I have a version I wasn't sure I wanted. Let me do this. I can't tell if that's working.
It looks a little telescoping.
Okay. I'm sorry. Give me one moment. Apologies. There, can you all see that? Okay. So today's agenda really includes getting to know you a little bit and going through some housekeeping. We'll talk a little bit about the accomplishments of the town, making sure that we're discussing strategic planning and helping to frame the context for the work ahead. And then we really are excited to talk with you all, listen to you, and learn more about what you're thinking about some very important strategic priorities that we see important for the vision of success for the town. But while we're here, Aaron, would you take a moment to talk a little bit about the hybrid nature of this meeting, the recording and using the technology, and let me know if I should stop sharing.
No, you can go ahead and continue sharing. So in this, we wanted to be able to capture as much information as possible from folks. I'm sure Julie and Judith might mention it later as well, but we do have an active survey that we're really encouraging people to fill out as well. So please keep an eye out for that. But really, we're looking to gather information from across the board. And so in that, the folks in person are going to have worksheets that they will be sharing their thoughts on. I certainly expect that there will be, opportunities for folks to talk as well if they're looking to share input that way. For our attendees online, we have a function called Jamboard, which is going to be a shared whiteboard experience. I will put that in the chat as we get closer to that. I have a couple ground rules. They'll be on the main slide as well, but essentially because it is a shared interface, please don't delete anyone else's comments. If you have an opposing view, which I expect many of you, may, please just make an additional note if you're here online. So that's really important to keep this as collaborative as possible. We want all perspectives. But in that, we were trying to find, a unique way to have engagement across the board and also limit the amount of maybe talking over each other that we might do in this virtual environment. From what I can tell right now, we have 23 people online and quite a few folks in person too. So please be as patient as you can. I will be on hand to answer questions if you're having any issues with the technology. Again, we're just looking to get everyone's input as much as they're willing to give. Also, please feel free to leave a name on your comment card or on your note when we get to that Jamboard, or you can remain anonymous if you choose to do so. For those folks in person, please just don't put your name on your paper if you want to remain anonymous. Again, the survey is also a great way to share your thoughts without necessarily having to assign your name to that. Anything else that I missed there, Julie?
Just only if you do choose to not use your name, that's totally fine. But sometimes we do follow up looking for a clarifying point, or if there is something about your comment that we would like to dig into a little bit more that isn't clear to us, it would help if your name is there, but it's okay if it's not. That's it. Thank you, Erin. I appreciate that. Yeah, so why don't we continue on? So ground rules for today's meeting. All ideas are welcome. We are really excited to have the cooperative commitment of the town and really appreciate you all coming to share your important vision and your ideas. Focus on what needs to be done. We really are looking at the future for the town. If there's something that you feel like we really need to have and make sure that we're considering in the strategic planning process, whether or not it feels like it can happen now or in 10 years, please go ahead and add it to your comments. And it is a group strategy session, so we really appreciate everyone's participation. Sometimes there are things that may be on your mind that aren't related to the strategic planning, and that's okay. If there are comments that need to be sort of put in a parking lot, we can do that. We can hold them separately and aside on a page. So you put that up in a corner and just say parking lot, or not for today, but keep this in mind. That's fine. We appreciate everyone's attention and work in this process tonight. And then let's, pithy, let's be sort of fairly brief in our comments, and just really appreciate that everyone has a lot of ideas. So we're excited to make sure that everyone gets to share what's important to them. And so that's important. And then use humor as a gift, not a weapon. Thank you. So I just wanted to take a moment to talk for a little bit about strategic planning. It really is a management process used to create a long-range plan. And we're looking at the future vision for Bluff and moving in this direction so that when we come out of this process, we will have summarized critical strategic thinking and identified priorities and have a plan for moving forward that is aligned with everybody that participated in the process. So we're excited to make sure that everyone who wants their opinion known, that you do go ahead and finish that survey. Our process has 3 phases over 5 to 6 months. Right now, we're in the assessment phase. We're gathering community input from you. Um, the assessment, really looks inward to the town, externally as well. We're doing surveys and interviews. We're looking at your current general plan and initiatives, and making plans for the next phase. The strategy creation is the next phase, and that's really a full day of participation with town leaders and other community members. There will be a session report and key initiatives determined in that process. We'll have graphic recording of that process, which will really be a visual representation of what's happening during the session. We move then into initiative development, which is, really important work over a number of weeks on the strategic initiatives, and then strategy integration. And once all of this is done, you will have a strategic plan in place that you'll feel really proud as a town to be able to move forward and with prioritized initiatives. This slide really outlines the Jamboard process. Erin, I don't know if you want to take a couple of minutes just to talk a little bit more about this. Make sure folks know how to use this.
Absolutely. So for our audience participating virtually today, like I said, we wanted to make sure that you're able to share your comments in a way that it gets to us. As I said, we really appreciate everyone's participation. As you can see, and this page will be available on the Jamboard. I'll go ahead and drop it in the chat now so folks can follow along. I'll put it there in just a little bit as well. But essentially, when you open the document, there'll be an instruction page at the top or out on the first page. With that, there are additional tabs along the top, and you'll see the arrows to navigate to the different areas that Julie is going to work through this evening. On pages 2 through 4, that's where you'll go ahead and put your ideas or comments or questions for the particular topic that's being discussed. You'll simply go to the left-hand side of the screen, select the 4th option down, which is a little sticky note. It doesn't matter what color you choose. And then you'll just click save when you're finished typing your message. You can make as many stickies as you want, but as Julie said, it's helpful to be succinct. And then if you have issues, certainly feel free to revert back to our in-call chat box. If you just absolutely are not feeling the technology tonight and still want to participate, we will have printouts available that you can pick up from the town offices. They're the same worksheets that the folks in person have, but we'll do everything we can to make sure that you're involved tonight. If you have questions or issues, I'll drop that link in the chat again a little bit later. But for right now, that should be live and you can go navigate in. Again, just a reminder, don't delete anyone else's note. Thank you so much.
Great, thanks, Erin. So our purpose for this strategic planning process is to develop a comprehensive strategic plan for the town of Bluff to guide its direction for the next 5 to 7 years. And as you know, as we've talked a little bit about the strategic assessment, we're gathering information from throughout the town, throughout the community. And tonight is a town meeting that really makes it possible for us to make sure we're getting all the information from community members that really care about the future of the town. So role is, a lot in this process as well, to make sure that you do complete the survey. It is a lot more in depth than the conversations that we'll be able to get into tonight. So we would love to hear from you via online, or I know that paper copies are available, and as Erin talked about. Um, your role also will be to learn about the plan and its implications for operating priorities after the plan is approved. Some of you will be asked to have a one-on-one interview and to participate in the group strategy sessions. Our outcome for tonight clearly is to understand what you think about the future of this community. What are you thinking about? We'd like to help make sure that we're digging in where we need to. And Judith and I will be spending a lot of time assessing, analyzing the information that we gather in preparation for the strategy creation session that we'll be having later in January. So today's process, let's get started. I'd love to build on the accomplishments that that you all have really worked so hard to get to. And you're a young town, not even 5 years since incorporation. You've already developed a general plan. You have administration and operations. You have elected leaders, staffing, accounting, offices, better roads, balanced budget. You've received grants for your community on behalf of the town. You have a community center. You have representation on state, county, and at the federal level. There's been so much that has been accomplished. And now we're looking at building a strategic plan that seeks to align the vision of the community to really look forward. So what I'd like you to do is to take a few minutes to think about these three core separate we're going to have three separate discussion topics, and with a little bit of overlap, I recognize that. But what I'd like you to do is to jot down your initial thoughts in these specific three different areas. We're just going to take about 5 minutes for you to gather your thoughts around that. And really would like you to do that without getting onto the Jamboard just yet. And really think about what are the things that are on your mind and what you would like to see as a priority and as a focus.
Julie, to clarify for our folks online, you would like them to not use that Jamboard quite yet. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you feel like you've had time enough to gather your thoughts in each of these areas? I can't see the chat, sorry.
We're at 4.5 minutes. If you were aiming for 5, I think we're really close. Maybe if anybody needs more time, they can raise their hand.
Yeah. Well, I think it probably makes sense for us to move into the group discussion about the first topic. As you think about the town of Bluff and what is important to you for for what the town should be working towards for the next 5 to 7 years, and you're looking at thinking about infrastructure, health, public safety, and transportation, what are some of the things that we should be thinking about around infrastructure? I'd like to open it up to the floor, but I would like one of our elected officials to kind of outline would what would be included in infrastructure in your mind. What are the important pieces, those big buckets that we'd be thinking about there?
In terms of infrastructure, we have the CCC that we are going to be developing. I've been thinking about that a lot lately. And we also have a lot of people are talking about the idea of a bike trail through town that is pretty inclusive of all the bells and whistles. So those are two ideas that have been extensively discussed by the council. The CCC, I'm sorry, that's the culture, what is it? No, it's the Cooperative Culture Center. It's the old school.
That's great. Thanks for jumping in. What else is included in infrastructure? Things that we may be thinking about?
Yeah,
Something around
this is
technology?
Luann. We also have the water. The water is our infrastructure, big topic. And we also have at the it's the old school, the new town hall will be our public offices. So that is a huge one.
That's great. Thanks, Luann.
Yeah, we do have an active transportation committee set up, and that is working a lot on this trail that Jim spoke of following the highway through town to get safely in and out of the school, and then connect other communities, so connecting over longer range, but connecting to Montezuma Creek and out to White Rocks on the reservation and over to Mexican Hat, up to Blanding, so people have the opportunity to connect to these communities, but also get exercise and the health benefits. But a lot of safety issues right here in town.
Mm-hmm.
And we are working with Bike Utah. They are doing our active transportation plan. And they will be starting this January. Well, the first meeting I think is in February, but the committee's been working with them to get that set up and rolling.
Excellent.
Those are good examples. So, Julie, are we ready to open up the jam board? I saw Aaron's note about making sure that we capture these. These were good examples.
Yep.
And I saw Erin's note about making sure that people enter those on the Jamboard or their worksheets as well.
Yeah.
I'm Lois Young. I live here. Speaking of infrastructure, what seems to be crucially important to me is the water issue, which Luann mentioned. But if we don't have the water issue solved and we don't have enough water, then everything else is just really not going to work very well. And as I was hearing about the meeting that happened a few days ago and thinking about this over many years, I'm just wondering if there is some way that we can increase our use of water at this point so that we can keep more of the water. It's, you know, with the drought we've been having, and there are so many issues with people trying to grab water, it just seems that that is a really important thing to make sure that the water that we have here, as much as possible, can stay here. That's all.
Thank you, Lois. Who else would like to speak to infrastructure? And we can open it up to the other topics in this discussion area.
Yeah.
We have a question online from Molly Schmidt. She's wondering which category housing might fall into as we continue on.
It's a great question because it cuts across several, but we can take housing here.
Let's do it.
Molly, you're welcome to speak out.
That was my question. Thanks, Julie.
Does anybody have any thoughts to share? Anything around health in the community, access to services?
I guess I can comment on that. You know, one thing that comes to mind to me when we talk about services and access is I really view Bluff as a gateway community, and that, you know, the nearest towns, if you're coming from the south, are Blanding, or even if you're coming westward, Blanding or Cortez. And I just feel that Bluff has so much more potential to support our surrounding communities based on our location. And so I'd like to really think about that framework moving forward, as like how can we be a service center for other communities?
Thank you. Is there anybody else thinking about that? Any other thoughts?
Jim?
Yeah, this is Jim over here. This is really a confusing way to talk to each other. It really kind of sucks. Molly said gateway community. As a wildlife biologist, as a 35-year resident of Bluff, the reason I love Bluff is because it has not been a gateway community. Gateway communities are Moab, over on by the the parks on the west side of the state. St. George is not a gateway. Gateway communities are crushed with visitation. I do not think we want to be a gateway community. We want to have a community that's going to be here for the next 30 years, that holds together, that's not overwhelmed with visitation. We want to We want to take care of the tourists that come, but we don't want them to own our homes. We don't want them to own our property. We don't want them to own the south side of the river or the north side of the river. That's why we've incorporated such a huge area. We love this little spot. And I wish you were here, Julie, so you could look at our cliffs and the sun on them tonight.
I wish
It's
I was too.
special.
I promise.
It's so special. We don't want to lose what is Bluff. And that doesn't fit into any of your categories, I understand, but somehow ferret that out. Thanks.
Thanks, Jim. It does fit in, but again, it cuts across a lot of categories and things we'll be needing to really look at and dive into in our conversations.
But it certainly fits into the category of a vision of success.
I guess I'll jump in real quick. Dan Myers in the room here in Bluff. Something I've been thinking about that spans across a couple of the topics is aging in place. Obviously, a big concern for a lot of people in our community. So how do we think about things that the town and the county can do to help support successful aging in place? Whether it's resources that maybe are available through the state and county that we don't really know about right now, or just ways that we can help ourselves. A second part of that is supporting the supporters. I think about our EMTs, which unfortunately have been dwindling. It's an incredibly admirable job that they do for pretty much no pay. And if anyone knows what they have to sign up for, as far as weekends and all kinds of crazy stuff, I think they would be in a rush to support them as well. So how do we bring more support to enable more people to do that and make it more sustainable? Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Can I add something to Dan? This is Patrick McDermott. I want to also suggest that in terms of health, our healthcare in San Juan County has really gotten a lot better in the last 10 years. But the one area that I agree with Dan on is there's still not very much in place for senior health. And services for seniors in Bluff are not, they're not outstanding. There are some services that are available here, but they're not great. And we are a pretty rapidly aging community. I'm speaking as somebody who's got some elderly relatives here in Bluff, and I do worry about our ability to as a community to be able to really provide services for seniors that really need something in place. And going to Cortez is not a very good option. So that would be something I'd like to see get addressed at some point. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Excellent. Okay.
I wanted to see if there was anyone else online who wanted to unmute. I know we've had some comments in the chat box and on the Jamboard, which of course Jamboard we're capturing, but anyone online who wishes to speak, definitely feel free to speak up.
Michael Havigan here. I'd like to just add to the transportation needs, planning of the town, that consideration be given to paving all the residential streets that are now gravel or dirt, and to replace the road surface on Black Locust, 7th Street, Navajo Twins Drive, which I believe has been in place for 35 years. And I think that's an important part of the strategic planning. People are tripping on Black Locust. They're falling off their bicycles. It needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Julie?
I'm back. Thanks, you guys. I think it's starting to happen now. I think this is a difficult conversation in the scenario that we're in. Patrick hit it on the nail. Thanks, Patrick. I do want to age here. I don't want to go to Blanding to the nursing home. I don't want to go to Cortez. I want to be in Bluff for the next 20, 30 years. And I also want to be here after that 30 years. We really need our cemetery district to come into our town. We need to control that. We need to make that a welcoming place for the residents who live here and our people all the way around us. We need to take that away from the county, and the cemetery needs to be our town property.
It currently is owned and managed by the county. Is that?
You'll have to talk to the mayor about that one. It was sort of a county board, which evidently didn't really happen, but it needs to be a high priority to get that accomplished. It's the center of our town, our history, our ancient history.
Okay, so this is Ann Lepinen, and to answer that question, it is not owned by the county. The county asserts that it owns it and manages it. It has had no oversight in any way, shape, or form. It never completed the cemetery creation process with the state. Right now, I've been personally dealing with the county administrator because they want to register it as a county board, and the state will not let them do it. Bluff, in order to do that, has to have the commissioners back off of the cemetery. That is on the agenda for 2023. And anybody who would like to help with that, please let me know, because this is not an easy challenge.
Thank you for that clarification, Anne. That sounds like an important project. Another one that you're working on. Okay.
Cody?
Hi, thank you. I would like to speak to the point of infrastructure, public safety, and transportation, kind of all in one idea. But I think that community sidewalks through town is a smart idea, but not just anything, not just normal concrete walkways, sidewalks. I'd like to see something that represents Bluff and the place that we are located. Nice sandstone walkways, something really nice that that makes Bluff a more walkable community. Public safety, I'd like to see the speed limit through town drop down to 25. There's no reason for 40. That's silly. And that's all. Oh, and one more note, I would like to say that this gets used a lot, but I think that Bluff is in a unique position, and we can show the world how this can turn out, but don't pave paradise for a parking lot.
Thank you, Cody. Well put. Okay.
Wow.
I'd like to probably turn to the next
Cluster.
community discussion group topic. And I would like to give this, if anybody has anything more to add on this one, before we move to the group discussion topic number 2.
Since we've kind of decided this might be the housing category, not that it can't be brought up again. I'm just wondering if there's some kind of housing programming or something. We've seen a lot of the last few sales of properties go to out of town people. And I'm wondering if there's a way to start prioritizing people who live in Bluff that rent or are looking for housing, and how we can start helping young people. I'm a little biased, like start to build like equity in Bluff, besides just volunteering time and hoping to hear through the grapevine.
Thank you. It's a problem that we are seeing throughout Utah. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay. Do we feel like we've covered this? Okay.
Julie, just quickly, I saw you taking a lot of notes, and I know that a lot of people have I've been trying to jot down some myself. I've noticed that a lot of people have posted on the Jamboard. I wonder if, as we segue to this next topic, if we want to be a little bit clearer about how we're capturing these inputs.
Yeah, we will. Certainly, I am taking notes and wanted to take compare to what we get on paper copies that folks are taking notes on and will turn in, and on the Jamboard. We'll be using this in our assessment process. And what we will do is really analyze, the number of times that different folks have talked about particular things, and just make sure that the folks in the strategy creation sessions are really considering the breadth of comments that we're hearing about different topics that we know are important to the town and to the future. It's, sort of making sure that we're not only taking the notes, but really looking at how much and how in-depth folks have been thinking about particular things. And we will take it into account, of course. Judith, is there anything else you can think of there?
Well, I'm wondering if we want to be, this next section gets a little bit, might not be quite as clear. It has more space, I suppose,
Yeah.
has more range, more opportunity for range. So I'm wondering if we might want to make sure that people post on the Jamboard or on their worksheets. And for those people who are willing, to make sure that you put your name or your initials, some identifier, if you're willing to have us get in touch with you to sort of deepen the conversation or to clarify something that you put there, so that we don't miss anything, even between all of our notes. I think it might be a good backup, so that we can, kind of come back to individuals.
No, that's a great point. Thanks, Judith.
And then I think Molly's comment was a good segue to cluster number 2, because I think that this notion of being able to look out and see a future for yourselves in Bluff at a young age is an element of community building. You want to feel like this is your community, this is your home. You can put down your stake here. So I think that's a good segue. And I don't know how we want to start. If we want to just kind of get people posting on the Jamboard, or if people want to offer verbal comments, or.
Yeah, I mean, I think this community building is such an, really quite enormous area, but some of the ways that we think about it are how are all generations going to, communicate and coordinate, and what kind of activities are helping everyone in town have a sense of belonging, and that will provide equity for young people, and everything that's related to that community building piece. What is it that's important to residents of Bluff? And as you look to the future and raising your families in Bluff and that sort of thing, what's important? And then around heritage and historic preservation, I know there is a lot of history in Bluff, and I'd love to know what it is that you're all thinking about around that piece where, yes, you have some people coming to Bluff simply to, understand and participate and see the beautiful history, and to, not only that they recognize the history of your area, but that they really value it and want to see it preserved, but that you as residents have that. And how do you look at that as you think about the future of your town? And I'd like to open it up to anybody that would like to sort of begin this conversation. I know that many of you have been thinking a lot about these things.
Cody?
Unfortunately, I don't live in Bluff, but my business is in Bluff. And I drive 4.5 hours across the Navajo Nation to get there. Bluff is a community that has over 10,000 years of human history. And I think that that should be continued to be respected. When you roll into Bluff, that you see that it was founded in 685. I don't think many communities in America honor that. And Bluff is in a unique position, in a unique place geographically to continue to honor that. And I'd like to see that continue to play out.
Cody, what would that look like?
Well, back to those sidewalks, something I think was always kind of cool with Sedona was that you could pull off the sidewalks and read informative plaques. Those plaques could cover geology, botany, 24 different local tribes, local pioneer history. All of that stuff could be laid out on walkways that complement the bike trails.
Okay, thanks. I'm looking for other hands. Thank you. Thanks for that clarification.
That's great. Thanks, Cody.
This is Luann Hook. I was going to add to that too, as far as the trail building goes. If we have a walkable community, people will be out and mixing a lot more. Right now, we have to jump in our cars to go everywhere, and it's really just the post office that you can get out. So that would be a big start to that. Also on the history, I think the dark is, are you hearing me? Okay, there we go. The dark sky issue is a historic and a heritage thing that we need to preserve, and we've got ordinances in place, but we have a lot of work to do on that to keep it flowing and to make it work.
Ooh, is there someone in the room that would like to speak? I can't tell.
Hi, my name is Bill Crowder, and I'd like to speak to the second category, heritage and historic preservation. As it's been commented on many times, we're living on top of other cultures, as Cody said, going back 10,000 years. I would like to see something in the planning and zoning that required at least some survey of what's underneath wherever something's going to be built. You know, whether it's a home or a business or a sidewalk. I'd like to see that there be something that it be cleared as not destroying the previous cultures. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's great. Thanks.
Let's see. I see a hand up at La Posada Pintada da Villa.
Hi, everyone. This is Jen. You asked about what would make it good for future people to live here. As a person with a not so young family anymore, but certainly a family of teenagers, I would love to have a community where both of my children's parents could find good employment and make a living and live as a family. So I would like to see more maybe economic development that goes towards more long-term type job sources in our area.
That's great. And that'll come up again in the next area around economic development. But it's good to know because it is a way that we build community if our children and grandchildren can also find meaningful quality jobs in the place where we live and love.
So I'll jump in again. Dan Myers here in the room. To add on to Luann's point, my wife and I's life has changed a lot the last couple of years as we added 2 kids. And we used to spend our time out on Cedar Mesa and hiking, and now we spend a lot more time in town. And so I never appreciated the importance of playgrounds until now. So thanks to the people who did the work previously to get the playground here. But more than just that, I guess it's a sociologist term called a third place, which is a place in addition to your home and your work where people can gather communally and see each other. Luann kind of mentioned already that our biggest place right now is probably the post office. You know, we all get to see Nate almost every day. Then outside of that, we maybe see some restaurants, see each other at restaurants, and that's about it. I think we have an incredible opportunity to either use the facility we have here in the grounds or over at the BCC to make it a more communal area with outside exercise equipment, bigger playgrounds, you know, places that people want to be and they have these happy little run-ins with each other. That just, you know, the sociology guy said it just really increases our happiness overall. So I think that'd be great.
Yeah, the livability.
Mm-hmm.
Happy little run-ins.
I like that phrase, yeah.
What other thoughts here?
This is Jim. This is Jim Hook again. Sorry, you guys are probably get tired of hearing me.
No apologies.
So, of course, you're waiting. All the people in town are waiting for me to say that this Bluff is separated from the river. The reason the original settlements were placed here, the reason the Mormon pioneers settled here, Bluff is separated from our river by private property all the way along our town border. I think it's really, really important, a high priority to connect our community to the river. I started that project 30 years ago, and I've welcomed everyone in town and every visitor to cross our property, our Recapture Lodge property, to make that access to the river. But I think it's really, really important to continue with the work that I started, that the Bluff Historic Preservation Association came on board, the Grand Canyon Trust, the state of Utah, to continue to allow us to connect to our river. The river is the life here. The river is the blood.
Let's hear from Patrick. I see Patrick McD has his hand up, and then Cody will come to you. Patrick? Patrick is on mute. Or did you change your mind? Okay.
All right. This is actually Monique McDermott, Patrick's wife.
Okay.
But I second what Jim said. But the reason why I raised my hand is because I really feel that it would be so nice to be able to have a nursing home with a memory care support here in the town that also utilizes the landscape to be able to make people feel like they don't need to run away.
Talk a little bit more about that, Monique.
Well, there are other models in Europe where there are memory care facilities that are put into place that act as little towns, but they're not really little towns. It's just people that are dealing with that kind of disease, whatever kind of disease that may be. They will have little stores stationed around that have quality, that have caregivers that can keep an eye out, but there's enough space to kind of walk around and make people feel like they're not really enclosed and trapped in a place versus, and it makes them feel like they have a lot of autonomy. And yeah, so that's what I would love something like that as a feature.
Thank you, Monique.
Yep.
Then Cody, did you have your hand up again?
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback off of what Jim was saying. The community of Bluff should be a steward of that river. Bluff is there because of that river. I'm here because of that river. That place should be respected, and that should be Bluff's identity should be connected to that river. It should be respected and in a greater way than what Boulder does. It should be a place that is cared for immensely. So I'm glad that Jim brought that up.
Thank you, Cody.
That's all I'm seeing right now in terms of raised hands. Quick chat here.
Okay.
Tim and Irene Hamilton have a hand up. And you're muted, so could you?
Okay. Yeah,
There
this is Irene. This is Irene. And I just want to point out to you all that Bluff is well, it's unique in a number of ways. But for me as a Dene, it's a border town. And a lot of border towns that I've lived in get a lot of bad publicity. But fortunately, Bluff has played her cards well enough through the years, through the decades, and I choose to live here for that honoring, and I hope that and I hope good choices are made in the future that people of all, people of color, people just can feel comfortable here. And I just want to throw that out to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene.
this may sound naive. What do you mean when you say a border town? And a nasty border town? I see that Jim made a comment about a nasty border town.
Well, just the river is a boundary between
Mm.
the rest of America and the Navajo Nation. And it continues all the way to Lake Powell and beyond, If you look at other border towns, like some that I've lived in, Farmington, New Mexico, some notorious ones like Gallup, New Mexico, Flagstaff, Arizona, those are all border towns. And I mean, they've had tumultuous history with people of color, indigenous peoples, you know.
And Bluff
Okay.
has a chance to not be that.
Yeah, Bluff has a chance to not be that. And so far, I've been treated well enough here, and my relatives are respected, and let's continue that.
And I think that's a really important element of this community building, and sense of belonging.
Yeah.
Thank you for.
And as a historian, an armchair historian, when you present histories, that they have to be accurate. They have to be accurate representations of people's histories. It can't be Disneyland, or whitewashed. It has to be accurate. And I think it has to be presented as such.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just respecting other people's ways. And somebody pointed out that, having the sign that says that Bluff was established in, 658, that's commendable. It's a step in a good direction. That's all.
And I gather when you say that it has to be accurate, you mean it also has to be complete.
Yes.
Mm. That's great.
Thank you, Irene. That's great. Thank you for sharing. there anything else on community building or as you think about heritage and historic preservation that we need to hear from any of you this evening? And certainly as you complete your survey, there is space there for open-ended comments. So if you would like, you can always expand there as well.
I'd like to say something else. This is Lois Young again. So I have a comment, and I don't see exactly where it would fit, if it would be in infrastructure or part of the community building. And I don't remember what the topics were for number 2, but possibly there was something about resources, maybe. And so my comment actually fits with all those, and it has to do with the town council. And I've been watching the town council, you know, ever since they started meeting. And this group of people is doing a huge amount of work, and they are creating this town. And they're, you know, we're talking about what we want to see. They have been working on creating this for a few years now. And I think it's really important that they be paid. Because if they're not being paid, and I know I've been told, well, historically, they've not been paid. Okay, well, maybe it needs to be changed, because they put in so much time and so much energy. It needs to be paid. They need to be compensated so that they can keep doing this.
Thank you, Lois.
Mhm.
Okay. This next area of discussion topic that we will be moving to really is, it's very big. I know that. I know we're not going to be able to give it quite enough time, as much time as we'd like this evening, but we'll go as long as we can to about 7:20 or so. And this really is a conversation around land use. What is your vision for the future? We've heard a bit already, and of course, because there is crossover between land use and the river and the way that you want to move around and live in your community. Recreation, you know, how does that look 10 years from now for the town of Bluff? And then when we think about economic development, there are a lot of directions towns can go and cities. And I think this is quite an important topic. So I would like to have everyone that has a thought about this to weigh in and make sure that you're writing notes on the Jamboard or on your papers, and make sure that we get these. I think this is huge, a huge topic for the future of Bluff, and one that we don't want to shortchange in our conversation. I'd like to go ahead and open it up to the group, and thank you.
I'll talk. You can never afraid of talking. When I think about the time I spend in this town and now outside with Emerson, and the days we spend walking up Calf Canyon and walking down to the river, like, I'm so incredibly thankful for people like Jennifer Stoll, who protected Calf Canyon, and all the folks who helped there, and also up Cottonwood and the hooks in the river. Like, it's just an amazing opportunity that we can go set off in any direction and just play for hours. I think there's some opportunity to continue, like Jim mentioned, with the river trail that's already there. I don't know if there's ever an opportunity to hook it up north, you know, through Jennifer's land and across the river, you know, and connect in one big circle would be incredible. And I also think, in connection with my second comment about making this a communal space, public bathrooms, I think, are important. I spend a lot of time out here now with a kid. Sometimes I'm looking around about where I'm going to go. So Tim and Irene, if I get a knock on your door, don't be surprised.
Okay. Thanks, Dan.
Cody has a hand up.
This might rattle some cages.
Okay.
I don't want to see any UTVs.
Any what?
UTVs, ATVs, off-road type of things. Moab's dealing with that right now, and it's not working out very well for them. Bluff is a small community. I seriously doubt anybody in Bluff would like to hear that sound all day long. So I think that's something that should be addressed pretty quickly because they will tear it up.
Does that, are there, what does UTV stand for? Because I understand ATV. I know four-wheelers or whatever. Are there other kinds of vehicles that would be included in this conversation?
Yeah, the razor type of things, dirt bikes, ATVs.
Oh.
Sure, yeah, I guess if you're on a public road, cool. But I mean, that type of tourism is not something I want to see for Bluff.
Okay.
So this is Ann Lepinen. For those of you who might agree with Cody, talk to your legislator. This is totally out of local control. And Cody, I side with you. Personally, I would take a position similar to yours, but while we can work on it and develop things, our hands are tied till the legislature backs off.
Yes, ma'am.
The state legislature.
Yes.
Okay.
This is Bill Crowder again. For a moment of levity, I've heard what you're describing, Cody, as Texas wheelchairs. And I agree with you. I think ever since we started coming down here years ago, one of the things I hear is keep Bluff Bluff, meaning a modern sign I've seen is don't Moab Bluff. I think we have to be very careful not to let that happen because, you know, if we want to live in Moab, we'd live in Moab. And I like Moab, but it's great to leave. But at any rate, that's my comment.
This is Lou Ann Hook. On the land use, we've got a lot of land in our town, but on the west side, our town is split with the river's on the south. It doesn't really split us. It splits us from the reservation, but it doesn't divide our town. But on this north side, we have a highway that splits us from the north side of town and the south side. And then we have the wash that splits us from the east side to the west side. The trail will help connect some of that. But on the west side, it was a big Cottonwood addition and it was a big subdivision. And when they laid it in there, they put it all skewed, just slightly enough to bump into other people's property, into the lines don't quite line up, and it's not north and south and so on. So it's caused a lot of problems. And then they had alleys. It was going to be a trailer court. They had alleys through the middle of the blocks and around the outskirts. So it's one of the things that comes up over and over. A lot of the alleys were given away by the county, but we're not sure if they did that legally or not. Some are gone, some are still there. Some people want them. So we need a big project to show what's there and what is really there and what's really not given away properly, and whether or not, that some of them end before they end. Some people need to get to property and so on. So it's something that needs to be adjusted and looked at before it it's been battled with the county for whole time we've been here, which is 34 years now.
Thanks, Luann.
This is Molly. I think there's a lot that we can do to become more kid friendly. If that's like, you know, increasing the safety, connecting different spaces in town from the mission to the high school to the elementary school. You know, a lot of people come in to use the laundromat and kids just kind of play around in that parking lot. Is there somewhere that kids can go that's safe while parents are doing errands in town? I think this also ties into using the spaces that we already have and thinking about how to program them more creatively. So is that childcare spaces? Is it looking and doing an assessment of some of our buildings that are empty and not being used and encouraging you know, people who want to start small businesses to use that space for childcare or pet and veterinary services. I think we can get creative with the spaces that we have and do better signage and programming to indicate that we are kid and family friendly.
Mhm.
Thanks, Molly.
The Jamboard has some interesting thoughts here about defining what economic growth means and will look like, and what are some other areas that you know, the tension between. Well, what are so some of the thoughts are the town needs to define what type of economic growth it desires, slow growing tourist economy, or are there other areas to grow in? Need an influx of new residents? What are we doing to attract people? If we're not Moab, we need to find other ways to grow the economy, program the spaces that we have. What services do we want to see? I think those are some interesting inputs. I don't know if there are any other comments on those.
Who has thoughts on those that they'd like to weigh in?
Okay, this is Luann Hook again. Just for your background, as much as anything, we incorporated 4 years ago. And a lot of that reason was because for all these years, we look like a town. We have a school, we have the post office, we have houses, so on. Totally looks like a town and has been here as a modern town since the late 1800s. But shoot. I forgot what I was going to say.
That's okay. Come back.
I'll think of it in a second. Sorry.
No worries.
I love Molly's point about trying to repurpose or use some of the resources the town has for little micro businesses and little entrepreneurship ideas, especially the childcare thing. It's kind of hard to raise kids here. I know a lot of people have done it, and you really have to lean on the support of the community. But having a little daycare, wow, that'd be amazing.
So thanks, Dan. I thought of it. What I was going to say is that before we were incorporated, we were just a blip in the county. Even though we look like a town, we didn't have any say. So we aren't a very big voice, you know, from 150 to 250 people total. So the county, we don't have a say there. We don't have a say with the reservation side. We're just sort of sandwiched in between. So we wanted to be our own voice and have a seat at all these tables, and that's what this is. So we appreciate, you know, looking at it as a whole. But all of these things are things that are important to us. But the only way we can do it is by having elected people be here to help figure out the town.
Thanks, Luann.
Molly, I'm sorry. Is your hand up again, or did I just not take it down? Okay. And then Diana? Diana, did you raise your hand? If you're talking, you're muted. Can you unmute?
There, sorry about that. Can you hear
Thanks.
me now? All right,
Uh-huh.
thank you. I just really wanted to ask the group and the town council to really think about economic development, um, the affordability of land and housing, and balancing all of that with keep Bluff. And I think we are already a bit of a gateway community. I'm not trying to contradict Jim Hook. I know he is a very wise man and has been in Bluff and knows it and loves it, and has been here for a long time. I too was in Bluff for quite a while. And I will tell you that I have seen more changes in Bluff in the last I'd say 3 to 4 years than I saw in the first 10 changes. So currently, but far and away, the economic engine are businesses associated with tourism. When you look at employers, the employer base, again, it is tourism-based businesses or conservation groups. As we got fiber optic and as remote work became feasible, and as people visited Bluff, saw the great outdoor recreation opportunities that the town has and just the beauty and see what a nice town it is, they fall in love with it and they want to come here and they want to move here. The thing though is that the current zoning that we have, the land is really limited. We have a big footprint as the town of Bluff, but the usable land is, I mean, the last time I looked at it, it looks like that it is really limited. So we have people that want to move in, want affordable housing, but on the other hand, we want to keep Bluff. We're concerned about water usage. And the way that gets modulated is by, it's a supply and demand as to real estate cost. Right now, empty lots are $100,000 an acre and they're selling for that. And that's before that, you try to build a house on top of that. I dare say that people that moved here 5 years ago, I don't know that you would be able to afford it if you came today. Would you be able to find a place to rent or would you be able to find a place to buy? I also think that the demographics, we are an aging community. You've heard quite a bit about concerns about elder care and aging in place. So I really think that there needs to be, quite a bit of attention and time spent on thinking about, this whole process with you want to expand economic development. You want to bring in good paying jobs. You want those people to move here. But yet you want to keep Bluff. And, the property values are up around $100,000 for an empty lot. So a lot to think about there. So that's my request.
Oh. That's a great summary of how complicated and interrelated those issues are.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that we're this is where I think that we're a gateway community. I think as Bears Ears, as that whole thing with the footprint of that got declared, shrunk, and then reestablished, we were in the news. A lot of people came to visit. And I think that may have been the precipitating event that, made it more and more attractive for, people to come and live in Bluff. but I don't think we're any different from many other, gateway communities that are outside. I know we don't want to be Moab. I don't think anybody wants to be Moab. Not even Moab wants to be Moab. So thank you.
Thank you, Diana. I'd like to take a few minutes to wrap up. So we really just have another minute or so. If anybody has anything to add to this conversation, make sure your thoughts are on the Jamboard. You're taking notes that you will turn in.
Could I just say one other follow-up comment that this old school that we call it, the new town hall, this falls into all of this land use. Part of why we got it as a town is to protect that big corner. It's right on the edge of the historic district, and it has a lot of hope for recreation. And then the Dinebeke that we've associated with have a lot of economic development potential that they are working on, along with tutoring and community building and all the rest that would happen there once we get it all going and it's ready to go.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's a fantastic project that the city has and that Dinebeke has worked on making happen. That's fantastic. Any other comments? Last comments? Are we there?
Wow, this was really rich. I think that we've got a lot of juicy stuff.
I'm going to.
Really thoughtful stuff.
Yeah. Thank you all so much. I'm going to escape so I can see you. Well, please, thank you so much for commenting, for coming tonight. We really, really wish that we could all have been in person with you. And we look forward to being in town in a couple times throughout this process. And I know what you have is a treasure of a town and so much fantastic future ahead of you. And everybody is working really hard to make sure that Bluff stays Bluff. Are there any questions as we wrap up this evening? Any wondering about this process, about strategic planning, anything that we would be able to help you answer right now? Diana, is your hand up?
It is. It is. I've been involved in strategic planning efforts many times when I had a real job. The way that I was schooled how to do this was through a SWOT approach. When are you doing that, and are you doing that?
Yeah, actually, our assessment does involve, we don't call it strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's a different version of a SWOT analysis. Yeah, so it's favorable forces, challenges, and it's part of the survey. So when you do take the survey, the way questions are asked, it's not maybe perfectly clear to you, but it is a SWOT analysis. I assure you, it's absolutely an important way to make sure that we're getting all the information that we need. It's a great question, Diana.
I'm not seeing any other hands here, but I don't know if everybody saw Jim's last comment. Obviously, we're special. Don't just chalkboard us. We're whiteboarding and jamboarding, not chalkboarding. Center around outdoor stewardship and cultural respect. I think that's the
Yeah.
a last comment that Cody has put in.
Well, thank you all. I'll turn it back to Aaron to close the meeting, your town manager.
I just wanted to thank everyone for participating tonight. As a reminder, please make sure to fill out the survey, whether you wrote down comments, shared comments in the Jamboard, or were there in person. That survey really goes a long way in helping us helping Julie and Judith start narrowing down our key priorities. We'll continue to have updates about the strategic planning process during regularly scheduled town hall meetings. You can also find more information on our website. If that didn't sound like enough of a service announcement, let me know. But again, we just really appreciate everyone coming tonight. Thank you so, so much.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Good night, all.
Will that survey be put